have it. Valve cover all removed. We just pull out the old gasket. As you can see, no RTV anywhere as per the directions for this type of engine. Again, there are the die-hard RTV users who are going to say, no, you gotta put some RTV on there, otherwise it's gonna leak. It's not the way these were designed, mostly because of the lack of right angles that they put in. There are two, but the design of the gasket is so that without RTV it will still seal well for the estimated life of the gasket. So I'm not going to take the time to really scrub out all this crusted oil buildup. I'm just going to wipe her down, do what I can quickly. I'm not being paid to do this, so it's not really a concern of mine, as for my own car, it definitely would take more time to clean this up. It's not necessarily a big problem. Theoretically, you'll be back in here in 30,000 to 50,000 miles anyways. So you kind of get some sludge buildup in the corners. It's definitely something to try and remove. Again, not a big concern. It's kind of pesky, cause problems later on if not taken care of at some point. As you can see, this is the bottom of the valve cover, so it's going to be where a lot of gooey stuff tends to sit. The only place you really want to care about cleaning up is on each of the back sides bolt holes. So they press against the metal, nice and clean. A little bit hard. As well as the plug tubes. You want those to be as shiny and clean as possible. There's little debris in the way. Good. Slide our gasket on there. The gaskets, as far as I can tell, should be mirror imaged, so you should be able to just put them on one way or the other. I found the easiest way is just to find those right angle joints and line them up first. I'm going to struggle for this one. So it should just sit right in here. Oh, the other gasket was a lot easier to put in. This one seems to be a little bunched up from the packaging. And do try to keep. So I got it figured out. The gasket seemed to be rolled over on itself. Just kind of had to flip it around on itself so the right angles popped out. Yeah, from there you kind of just press it in there. No need to make it nice and even at first, just kind of get it set there. Oh, of course, and I put it in upside down. There's the right and wrong way to put it in. You can see these little divots here set in there more evenly, and they're correct side up. You're going to find that as you're putting it in, it's going to seem a little short, usually. The other side definitely seems a little short and just need a little bit of stretch. It should sit nice. Let's see, here we're getting a little bit of a stretch going on. Pull it into the corner. And then go all the way around and make sure it's pressed down into the divot as low as it'll go. And again, trying to keep from getting junk from like the ground or your hands on it. My hands are covered in oil, so it's going to be cased in oil, so it should be fine. And that should do it for that. And you come up here, and you can see your spark plug tube seals. Just pop them off. Just slide right off. And you'll definitely be able to tell if they're warm when you try to squeeze them and they do nothing. Over here are our new ones. They're nice and, well, I mean, they're not soft, but they're definitely softer. You kind of just slide them skinny side onto the tube seal. Just push them on there nice and evenly until they don't slide anymore. And you're basically done from there. You just, this is also a good time to inspect your valve train. See if there are any issues that may need to be resolved, like running a cleaner through your oil, or if there's any shaving buildup of any kind. just any noticeable problems. As you can see on this one, hasn't been well maintained in oil changes and oil quality since I've been working on it for this client. I've been doing full synthetic changes, which do seem to be helping some, but there's definitely a need for a cleaner to be run through here, but I doubt she's going to opt for that. And from here, the easiest way to get it back in, same way it came out, right under the big power cable. Slide it back this way around the seals, and try to be really careful about getting your gasket caught on anything. So I'm just going to set the camera right here, and just go around your power cables. Just going to set it down into the space where it would go. Let's try and scoot it past the plug tubes without pulling your gasket out of its divot. It's going to be tight. There we go. Make sure all your gaskets are still set correctly before you set it on there. And when you go to set it on, it is not going to grab on anything. It's kind of just going to hang there like it wants to fall off. And that is fine. That's because your new spark plug tube seals are very large compared to what they used to be. So just let it sit there. I would opt to start at the top. Grab your valve cover bolts. Grab your top ones, your little gasket that comes with it. Silver side out. Sits like that. And you just pop it in, in. You're solid. Oh, of course, I forgot to take off the old ones. So, easiest way to get the old ones off is just a flathead screwdriver, just wedge it behind them, just pop right out. Make sure you clean those up as they are covered in oil. You don't want that just running all over wherever you're working. Bottom one's of course going to be the hardest one to get back off. Of course, it's like nearly impossible to see. Get my fingernail around it. Let's try and go at it from a different angle. Okay. Now I got that bottom bolt gasket off. It's a bit of a challenge. I had to wiggle it around a bit. So when I put this on, what I usually do is just kind of give it a good press, not too hard. Just enough to thread on the top two finger until they stop moving. Once they stop moving, move on to, I usually just move to the middle one. It's easier that way. So the bottom ones are going to be nice and straight by the time I get to them, being as they're really hard to see if you're not going from the bottom side of the car, as I am not. Just kind of spin in the middle one till it's about finger tight. Give it a little press to get a little more. Now the bottom ones are going to be the hardest to thread on. Again, unless you're going from under the car, it'll be fairly hard to see as you put them in. You kind of just thread those on, again, finger tight, the best you can. I'm not trying to mash them down just yet. And there are torque specs for these. Of course, there's torque specs for everything. I usually don't listen to those. They tend to be a waste of time to try and get a torque wrench in here and figure out if these are exactly torque. As I found in my experience, the only things that really matter for torque specs are head bolts, transmission bolts, and clutch bolts. These valve cover bolts will be fine if you just ratchet them down to just past tight, where it stops moving mostly, and you can maybe have a little more and you just don't want to push it too far. It'll just start crushing your gaskets. So again, I usually just start from the top and just kind of start cranking on them. And you'll see if if you're looking at it, it'll look really awkward because it'll be spaced out really far with your finger tight, like it's not tight enough, obviously. Yeah, I just do the tops until the top is pretty tight, not wedged down just yet, but just enough that the gasket starts to get compressed, and you can see the valve cover coming in closer for its seal. And again, these two top ones are going to be the easiest on my startup top. Saving the fun stuff for later. Yeah, once the gasket stops compressing, it's a pretty good place to stop spinning those. And then from there, it's just tighten up the other three, go back to top, go all the way around. No need for a star pattern if it's not the turbo model or later than 2006. And once you get all those tightened down, don't forget to put your oil fill tube back on. It's a handy little thing. Put your spark plug wires back in, and then reinstall your pisher tank with its 2 bolts, and make sure you hook up any lines you disconnected, the plugs. And then you're going to want to put your battery back in. I took out the whole battery casing and bracket just to get it out of the way. It's a lot easier to work with that. Don't cross your battery cables. Definitely had people do that. It's a really quick way to ruin a lot of stuff. And don't forget your PCV tube there. That's pretty important to hook back up. And for the other side, I didn't mention, if you don't want to put this air box back on, this resonator box, you don't have to. I almost always just leave them off. They're really don't serve too much of a purpose. A lot of people advocate, oh, it helps with air pressure, noise, air turbulence. They mostly are just designed to reduce noise. Specifically, these engines, they're way overcomplicated for what they're doing. They're also just in the way for doing any repairs like this, getting to your ABS unit, or replacing your spark plug wires, or your plugs themselves, or any of that. This whole box is going to be in the way every time, so I just tend to leave it off, get rid of it. The filter is inside this housing, if you didn't know that already, so you don't have to worry about losing your filter or anything like that. And then from there, yeah, just put it all back together, and that's a full valve cover gasket replacement. Again, this is done every 30 to 50K on these 2.5 liter flat 4 engines. Yeah, and if anyone was wondering, this whole PCV tube system that is on each side, you can follow those up to the box. They go in each side of the box. What they are is a positive crank ventilation system, and if you don't know what that is, you should definitely look it up. But a real easy rundown is this little thing right here behind this pincher is your PCV valve, and if you were to take that out and just shake it, it should click around. There's a little one-way check valve in there. If it does not click, as every single one I've ever taken out of these Subaru engines does not, it means it's clogged and needs to be replaced. It's a quick way to start puking through some oil and having some problem with your lower gaskets, like your oil pan gasket and whatnot. So your crankcase needs to ventilate oil fumes, otherwise it's a buildup and becomes problematic. So yeah, it's pretty easy. I think it's a 19 millimeter. Just pull off that tube, comes right out. Put another one in. No need to think about like cleaning out of the oil or junk there. It's always going to have oil in it. That's what it's for. Other than that, yeah, it's basically the repair.